Today, I'm going to walk you through how to make a gluten-free yellow cake with chocolate icing. The first thing you need to do is grease and flour your pan. Make sure to get all the corners and flour it well. I floured it a little too well. You can also use parchment paper if you want to skip this step, but make sure that you are able to get your cake out of your pan. The gluten-free flour that I'm using requires xanthan gum for this recipe. I have measured out all my ingredients first. This is how I sift my flour. I like this method, it's easy. In this is 2 cups of gluten-free flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon of xanthan gum. Mix it well. Once the flour mixture is mixed, set it to the side, and now we're going to cream our butter and our sugar. Make sure that this is done very well. This actually affects the quality of your cake. Be patient, it does take time. I used 1 cup of softened butter and 1.5 cups of vanilla infused sugar. I quickly realized I made a mistake and needed a bigger bowl. So I switched to a bigger bowl and added 1 egg yolk at a time. There are many different methods to get your egg yolk separated. This is the one I chose. Do what's best for you. You do want to make sure to mix each egg yolk in individually. It is very important that you cream it together well. And this does need 8 egg yolks. Don't worry, the cake does not taste eggy if you do it this way. It works very well. And you can see how rich and creamy that looks. That is an excellent start. I did save the egg whites for later use. Now that the egg yolks are creamed together, add your vanilla. This is 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract mixed well together. And now I added my flour and my milk, and you want to alternate, don't add it all at once. Add a little bit of flour, mix it completely together, add a little bit of milk, mix it completely together, add a little bit of flour. You understand. You keep going until you're completely finished with both. If you rush this process, your cake will not come out very good. Take your time. It's definitely worth it. With gluten-free flour, there's a fine line between working it too hard and not enough. It definitely does take practice. That batter looks so good. I'm going to go ahead and place it into the pan that I prepared earlier. You want to make sure that you spread your cake evenly throughout the entire pan and then tap out any extra air bubbles. This really does make a difference that you don't get air pockets. This cake bakes at 350 from anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. It just depends on your oven. This is about halfway through, and this is what it looks like when I pulled it out at 27 minutes. The cake has good springiness to it, and the knife came out clean. That is what you want to see. This is a good looking cake. While the cake was baking, I made the frosting. It's a chocolate frosting, so I used cocoa, and I creamed together the cocoa and the butter, and I realized I probably should have used a cover because I had a gigantic cocoa explosion. And I could actually taste cocoa in the air. But it does look good. It creamed together really well, and all those particles are all the cocoa floating around. And then you add your vanilla. This is a teaspoon of vanilla. I used a cup of butter and half a cup of cocoa, and then added the vanilla. Once that is thoroughly creamed together, I added 5 cups of powdered sugar, but I didn't add it all at once. I did do this slower, and you still want to have that cover on there. It really does make a difference, and all those particles floating around is the powdered sugar. It would have been a lot worse without that cover. Once that was mixed together well enough, I added 4 tablespoons of milk. I did add that slowly. This is almond milk that I am using as well. I also used the almond milk in the cake. I did go back through and add another tablespoon of milk, and once I got to frosting the cake, I should have added probably 1 to 2 more tablespoons. It got cool pretty quick and was giving me some issues when I was frosting the cake. It tastes really good, but it definitely could have been a little bit creamier and not so firm. The pan I chose made the cake longer and thinner, so I'm going to make a small double layer cake. It's going to be great. I'm going to try to cut it in half the best I can. Cutting off the top really does help to even out the cake, and if you mess up cutting off the top, it's actually pretty easy to fix. The cake turned out so good. It's really spongy and soft and moist and tastes great. It was a good cake. In retrospect, I should have brushed off the sides of the cake a little bit more with the flour. You can't really taste it, but it did hinder me in frosting the cake. The second top came off much easier, and so I am going to use that as the base so that I can turn over the other side that I didn't cut so well. And as you can see, the frosting is already giving me some issues because it cooled off pretty quick. When I put the top on, I found that it went together very well. I did a pretty good job cutting it in half. And then I went ahead and frosted the top and the sides. And I left the side that you see, I left that for the last because it will get the rest of the frosting crummy. So I'm just gonna wait. So after a while of struggling with the frosting, I got a glass of hot water. Now you don't want to put a lot of hot water on this, but it does make the frosting more pliable. And as you can see, it already started smoothing it out and going on a lot easier. So this really did help me out. This isn't something that I would do every time, but I was having a little bit of trouble with the frosting. And I bet you're saying to yourself, what is she gonna do with that gnarly looking cake? Well, let me show ya. With a lot of patience, a lot of frosting, and a lot of hot water, it actually worked out pretty good. I know it doesn't look like it is. I was constantly cleaning and scraping the spatula to make sure that I didn't bring more crumbs into the situation that will hinder you in the long run. But as you can see, it's coming together. The key is to make sure that you keep your spatula clean and hot. It was very sticky. It dried out a little too fast. I will do the frosting a little different the next time I make this, but I still really liked the overall cake. When I was done, I cleaned up the cutting board and it looks good. Everything smoothed out really well, and you can't tell which side was the gnarly side, and that's a good thing. It's fairly even. I wasn't going for an award-winning cake. I was only going for a I love my husband cake, and it worked out pretty good. So this is the cutting of the cake. It has really good color, really good texture, and this is how he wanted it, and this is how I wanted it. I love putting a little bit of milk on it and using a spoon. It's so delicious. Yum, yum. I hope you found the video useful, and thanks for watching. Bye.